to Tabletop Gaming Guild. Tabletop Gaming Guild is all about the experiences, memories of playing tabletop games with friends and families can create. Today we'll be looking at Forge Wars, which is designed by Isaac Childress. Now, Isaac Childress is best known for his designs of Frosthaven and Gloomhaven, but he has a number of other games that are lesser known. This in particular is his first design. So let's take a look back at the roots of Isaac Childress. In Forge Wars, you're going to be gathering resources from the mine to acquire plans for weapons and using those resources to build those weapons to equip to adventurers to send on quests. So it's a multi-stage resource gathering production game. You will start the game with a unique semi-randomized starting resources, so everybody starts the game off a little bit different, and then in the first phase of the game you are going to be gathering resources from the mine, and the mine is a pretty interesting and unique mechanism. In the mine, each player will take a turn moving a single overseer. When you move an overseer, it produces a worker in the spot it left, and that worker produces a resource. Once workers are on the board, they no longer produce unless somebody jumps over them. If you jump over another player's worker, it becomes yours and it produces a resource for you. However, if you jump over one of your own workers, it is converted to somebody else's color, whoever has the fewest workers on the board. After everybody is gone, the first player then gets a chance to take one extra action with an overseer to get more resources, but then they become last in the next phase of the game. So the next phase of the game is a worker placement section, though probably we should call it action selection as to avoid confusion with the workers from the mine. So you choose an action such as acquiring a new weapon plan, or going to get market stalls, or taking a single instant action and spend the money to do that. You can spend money in learning how to produce from public weapon plans. You can also hire new adventurers and upgrade existing ones. You can get money for passing, or you can speed up your quests. After the action selection phase, you would then go to the quest selection phase, in which each player gets to choose one quest, or none, and has to pay for where they took that quest from. Then all players would have to make sure they fit the requirements for all the quests that they currently have. You can assign as many adventurers as you want to a single quest, but they have to be equipped with weapons equaling the skill level required for the quest. If you manage to fulfill the requirements of the stage of each quest you're on, each quest progresses one step, going from left to right, top to bottom. If you manage to pass a stage, you get the reward, but not the one in brackets. If you fail, you get the reward in brackets for any phase you pass so far. If you manage to complete the final stage of a quest, you get all the rewards, your adventurers come back to you, potentially leveling up, but all their weapons are stripped. You have to re-equip them for the next quest. And this is where the bulk of the points are going to come from, although at the last turn of the game, which in the basic game is 7 turns, there will be options to buy into extra bonus points, such as getting points for having weapons of a certain level. And that's the basic game of Forge Wars. However, there are 4 modes to this game. You have the basic mode that's just going to be 7 turns using the green quests and green equipment. The quick start basic game that goes for gray equipment and gray quests that are slightly more advanced. You also start with a lot more resources. Epic mode that goes for 18 turns, and you'll be getting the whole range of possible equipment and possible quests. There's also the quick start epic mode that starts you in the gray, and you do gray and red, so 12 turns. So that's the basic overview of Forge Wars. There's a lot of little elements, and each feeds into the next, so you need to do one thing to do another thing to be able to do another thing. I feel like there's one extra stage. It can be a little confusing to explain the fact that when you get this weapon class, you do not yet have any weapons. You have to then use that to create weapons. I felt like that was a little bit of an unnecessary step. We could have just gone with, okay, you have this weapon plans, you're free to be able to create this weapon whenever you want. but that would have screwed up all the whole resource gathering, and so I imagine that would have been really hard to figure out how to streamline that, but I think it should have been done. The mine was really interesting mechanic, getting those workers down, but doing it in a way that you're planning for what your next movement is, because if you don't, you're not going to get much resources in your next move. You do have to plan based on what you think other people are going to be doing, and you do not want to set them up for really great turns, but you can also tempt them by putting something pretty decent so that you know where they're going to go next. In the short game, I didn't think it worked that well because the first player basically chooses the flow of the game. They can seriously bog down the game and reduce the resources for everybody around by never taking that extra turn and getting all the resources. But it's definitely incentivized to take that extra turn because you can get a lot more resources in your extra turn than from your first. But in the epic game, it balances out those. You definitely have to be taking those extra turns as much as possible and making sure you're planning for your next action. So the turn order will change quite a bit in the longer game. I thought the quests were really interesting because once you go there, you've pretty much locked adventures in, so there's a balance of, oh, do I want this longer quest, but then I'm losing out on being able to assign all these adventures to other quests because they're locked to this one. So I have to either invest in long quests and then invest in getting a bunch more adventurers to go out, or do these quick short quests to get my adventures back as quickly as possible so I can go to more quests. And he was really smart in that the last phase of the game, you're getting quests that are only points and only take one turn to complete. Because of that, at the end of the game, you're never left with no good options. You always have good options at the end of the game as long as you haven't completely screwed up your strategy. Overall, this is a really solid game. Though the basic mode, there's a few small issues that could have been ironed out, and the epic mode is great but a little too long. Basically, this could have been edited down a little bit to make it faster, more streamlined, but for a first design, this is an excellent game. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check us out on other social media such as Instagram and Facebook, and don't forget to like and subscribe.